Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. Joining me now, as always, is Mr. Money, Kyle Fahey. Kyle, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. We got a franchise quarterback, pass rusher soon to come. It's a good time for us.
Yeah, it is. The Jets had their annual green and white scrimmage this past Saturday. They're in week 2 of training camp, and then in 48 hours, actually under 48 hours, they will take the field for the first time in 2018 against the Atlanta Falcons. So a lot happening in Florham Park, New Jersey. Before we get to the show, we'll do a few plugs. You can find us on Twitter at The Jet Take. You can also listen to our show anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search The Jet Take. So iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. We're all over the place. But probably most importantly, the place you can find us is turnonthejets.com. The best Jets content out there. If you go to our page, anytime we upload an episode on there, I always include all the links to find where episodes are. So, you know, if you're on Android or whatnot, you don't use iTunes, and you could find, you know, whatever platform suits your podcast listening preferences. And yeah, we're going to get underway with Chris Nimbley, who's joining us in a few moments. You know, we're trying to keep up with our annual Beat Writer a Week thing. We had Manish Mehta on last week. He was great. Chris has done a lot of work with TOJ, and he's been great. I listened to his, why can't I think of the, Kyle, please help me out. What's the name of I literally just listened to this podcast yesterday. What's your point? There we go. I got it. It doesn't have Jets in it, so it's a little harder for me to.
Oh, man. We have 100 different podcasts. I was just going to start spinning them out for you.
I was trying to remember it, but yeah, Chris Nimbley writes for JetsInsider.com, terrific beat writer. Really funny stuff yesterday when I listened to it. So, Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're good. You know, we're back in the swing of things with Jets football. We don't have to make up content, you know, as we have to during May and June.
Yes.
It's always hard. Chris, I mean, you've been following the team for a while, and you know, obviously they've just probably wrapped up week 2 of training camp. Tomorrow they don't have practice, then they hit the field on Friday, as we mentioned, against Atlanta. But let's go back a few days to the green and white scrimmage. I feel like that was probably the biggest thing that's happened this past week. You know, at Rutgers, better atmosphere than in years past. I guess that's what a franchise quarterback does for you. What were just some of your main takeaways from that night? I mean, it was kind of a half scrimmage, I guess. But, you know, it was overall a good event for those who were in attendance. Just kind of some takeaways you took from the guys on the field.
Well, yeah, we're not getting off to a great start here because I actually didn't go to the green and white scrimmage.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's the interview.
All right, you're out.
Yep, yeah.
All right, it was nice talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
no, I didn't go because under Bowles, the scrimmage isn't really a scrimmage anymore. And I've gone to a couple of them, and I've just gone there to just, you know, it's glorified walkthrough sometimes. I know they did more this past time, but it's been a glorified walkthrough, and I'm just like, I'm not spending my Saturday night doing that again.
I like it.
Like and retweet that one.
All right, so I'll shift the question a bit. Through the practices that you have seen in person, you know, I think they've had 9 or 10 so far. Kind of your main observations from the Jets start of their training camp.
The main one, the one I'll start with at the top, that's not even Sam Darnold related too. So 2 for 1 there. But you know, right now you got people looking at the Jets roster, especially you know, people who aren't diehard Jets fans, and they're searching for the names, and they're wondering how can this team be this good because they don't. You know, Revis is gone, Sheldon and Muhammad Wilkerson are gone, and it's like you know, Mangold's gone. Yeah, well, those guys weren't what they were anyway, so they're not missing anything having them around. But also, they're not top-heavy on the roster, and they do still have holes, like noticeably offensive line and the pass rusher. But the depth on this team, this is probably the deepest team I've seen in the 8 years I've covered this team. You have legit position battles. Like McCagney's going to have some tough choices when he cuts down the roster. With the tight end, how deep they are in the secondary. Defensive line has a lot of depth. The receivers, there's a lot of depth. a really good football team here. They're still missing pieces, but you look around and you just have to be impressed with the overall talent on the roster, top to bottom.
Yeah, I think that's something that excites Jets fans when you talk about depth, because it's something, definitely towards the end of the Rex Ryan years that they certainly lacked. You kind of touched on it at the beginning, Sam Darnold, bigger picture, the quarterback room. What have been your takeaways from that? And, obviously, you talk about depth all over the ball. This is probably the deepest quarterback room the Jets have had in a long, long time.
By far.
Three guys I'm pretty comfortable with in starting. Just kind of your takeaways, from that battle that's kind of going on. Who's playing the best? How would you kind of rank them? Just kind of takeaways you've had from that quarterback room.
Yeah, it's an interesting group. Obviously, you have McCown, the 39-year-old veteran. You have Teddy, the newish veteran, but he's not a rookie or young kid anymore. They're all at different stages of their career. It's an interesting dynamic. They seem to genuinely like each other and really get along and help each other and pull each other, so that's really interesting. But, in minicamp, it was Teddy. Teddy was lights out and was clearly the best quarterback on the field. He hasn't been nearly as impressive in training camp. He's had his moments. McCown's had some moments. Darnold's had his moments, but they've been all up and down, honestly. None of them have really been great or spectacular, just one thing after another. There's a lot of things you can look at and watch. And I know some people seem to be getting a little carried away with Darnold, but, the thing about what you love about him isn't necessarily the plays he's making, but you can see how smart he is, the football intelligence there is, the way he can read defenses. You can see him read defense and then adjust the play at the line. We see this unfolding right in front of us at practice all the time. So he's still not always getting everything under the ball. He's having trouble with some deep balls for the most part, but he's completed a couple of them. But he's struggled a little bit at some, and some of that's just not planting his foot right. Some of it's letting the ball a little early. But you can see and the way he carries himself, the intelligence, everything about his mental game, he's way ahead of where you would think any 21-year-old rookie would be.
Yeah, that's certainly exciting. And from sitting at home and reading all the tweets and stuff, it's clear that Darnold has been, pretty up and down, but fairly up. There's been a lot to get excited about. He's been doing well in the red zone and whatnot. If you had to put kind of a percentage on it, because obviously the rumblings have really started this last week. We're not going to claim that we started or Manish Mehta started in our podcast. But this, he came on our podcast last week and he just said, from everything he's heard, he expects Sam Darnold to be the week 1 starter.
No, Ben, let's claim it. Let's claim that as ours. I think that's the best thing for business.
Go ahead.
As the week went on, Adam Schefter said it, a few other Jets beat writers have talked about it, how, Sam Darnold's going to have a fair chance to win it, and some people expect him to win the job. If you had to put percentages on each quarterback being the week 1 starter, how do you see this shaking out?
Well, I'd probably go 80% Sam, 15% Teddy, and 5% McCown. Basically. And I thought this since they drafted him. I thought this before they even drafted him. I just figured this is how they would go about it with the rookie quarterback. We saw what they did last year. They did everything possible to try to give Christian Hackenberg or Bryce Petty the chance to win the job. Neither of them could do it. They went to McCown. This year, it just seemed that they were going to do the same with Sam. And so it shouldn't be a surprise. And I think that basically as long as Sam is out there and doesn't look completely lost and completely overwhelmed, he's going to get the week 1 starting role. Now, if he goes out there and it's, looks like a deer in headlights and is just doesn't look ready for the moment, then I don't think Bowles will hesitate to say, no, you sit down for a couple weeks. But at that point, unless that's the case, and from what I've seen of him so far, I can't imagine him looking that bad. So I'd say I'd put him around 80% to start.
That's interesting. I like the McCown at 5%. Feel like that's just, he knows his role. He got paid enough. Yeah. I mean, he's fine to sit. Yeah,
absolutely. There's no long-term upside whatsoever to playing McCown. And obviously there is with Darnold. You could make a case that there is with Teddy, to boost trade value or whatever, but there's none with McCown. You have McCown there, and stick him in the breaking case of emergency glass. He's there, he can help, but that's it. You don't need him unless someone gets hurt or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the way. Hopefully everything's going to pan out this year. I know you said that you weren't at the green and white. We almost had to end the whole interview because of that, but it's fine. We'll look past it. I guess you're still an expert on some level, so we'll accept it. I want to talk about another position that's kind of being looked at. We don't know who's going to be the starter there. We definitely have some young talent there. We have some, depth veterans who will definitely play a lot. But this is on the other side of the ball, outside linebacker. In the green and white game, Luvu, who was mentioned, by Manish Mehta, I believe, and then Brandon Copeland, both guys who were not here last year, got the starter positions, which I think is everybody should take lightly. But, what have you been seeing from them in camp, and what do you think the real shot is that either of them will start opposite of, Jordan Jenkins, who we assume will be the main starting outside linebacker this year?
Yeah, Jordan will definitely be the starter, and he's going to be in there on first and second downs. They love him being able to set the edge against the run and everything. But I could definitely see them trying to work some guys in for more pass rush. But yeah, one of the most frustrating parts about the time of year training camp is when fans and even the other reporters I see them report constantly about who's working with the first team and the second team and this and that. And the truth is, they work guys in and out constantly. They're constantly rotating. Some days it's just their turn. And that's really all it is. It's just you're getting a shot with the ones today. And so people tend to get a little too caught up in that stuff sometimes. But as far as Luvu and Copeland, Luvu has really stood out in the last week and a half, I'd say. He started making a lot of plays, and he's been doing a little bit of everything. He's been getting pressure, he's been stopping the run, and he's been able to do some stuff in coverage. Copeland has shown some ability to get inside to blitz and get to the quarterback too. He's been a little more one-dimensional, but he has definitely started to jump out a little bit as well. But Luvu is somebody who I've been really impressed with this past week or two, and I was sitting there, it was sometime at the end of last week, I was like, where did this guy come from? Because I saw him making plays, and I was like, all right, cool, because I've seen it plenty of times, a guy who no one's ever heard or remembers, who will have one or two standout practices, but he just kept building one after another, and I was like, I got to pay attention to this kid. And ever since I've been starting to look more closely at him, he's just impressed more and more. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens, how he plays in the preseason. As Bowles likes to say, a lot of the players act differently. Things go differently once the lights come on. So we'll have to see how that goes. But he's been really impressive. And again, Copeland has been doing a good job of getting at the quarterback, and that's pretty much all. But we know how badly the Jets need pass rushers. If he can actually do that in a game, that can be huge for the Jets, obviously.
Quickly, I know you said that, it comes down to preseason, how guys play under the lights, but what would your early guess be for Luvu regarding a roster spot?
Yeah, right now I definitely have him in there. I'm going to have to make my predictions on the roster tomorrow. I was thinking about it today. He's definitely in.
All right, now is the part on the interview. Since you're an insider, you're a Jets insider, you're there every day. This is the part where, we push you for, all your inside information. We got to know, what's the truth behind all these Mack rumors? Is this guy really going to get traded? Are the Jets a target? Are the Jets interested? Well, I think, to be fair, I think every NFL team is interested. But, any buzz around the building that we need to be concerned about or, listening a little closer to?
Yeah, there wasn't too much buzz around the building or anything like that. But I can tell you they're 100% interested. There's no question about that. The question that I have is, number one is what are the Raiders going to want? Will the Jets be willing to meet that, and can they even meet that? Without having that second-round pick, that's going to hurt them a little bit. But they could give them, the first this year and then a second or third the year after. There's lots of things they could do. McCagnon knows that pass rusher is still a huge hole in this roster, and we're not just talking about some decent pass rusher. We're talking about one of the best defensive players in football. Maccagnan is, to use the old Tannenbaum phrase, he's going to turn over that stone. He's going to go ahead and he's going to check and he's going to see what it's about. See, especially with how the Raiders are being run right now, like, you got to think that teams are sitting there thinking, hey, could we get him for a fourth? Like,
yeah.
And, like, no, you can't. But everyone's going to try because the Raiders are, who knows what they're doing right now. So
they're being idiots.
Yeah, well, clearly, that's not really too much of a surprise. Them being this much idiots is a little surprise. It's like, it's Khalil Mack. I don't understand what the issue here is. But they're going to look into it. I just don't know that they'd be willing to give up what it would likely take to get him. I think, if they are really determined to trade him, I think somebody else would probably be willing to do that. But we'll see. He's definitely going to look into it, though.
Yeah, I think my rule of thumb is always if Schefter starts talking about it, then it's real.
It's real.
And, yeah, he's talking about it. And so, I think the Raiders are kind of looking at the market. As you said, I don't understand it at all because it's like, well, you have this guy who's homegrown. You drafted him. What did they draft him, like third or second overall a few years ago? He's played lights out. I mean, he's probably just asking for way more money than they can give because it makes no sense. But the Jets, have clearly the need and have the money to do it. As you mentioned, the one question out of the three kind of things you need to perform a trade like this is, do they have the means to get him? So, yeah, you're going to have to give up a first, and then you're going to have to probably give up maybe a 22nd or something like that, which, is a steep price. But then you think about Khalil Mack is a top 3 pass rusher in this league, and is 24, 25, something like that?
Yeah, he's young.
Pivoting a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about camp. You talked about Frankie Louvu a little bit earlier as a surprise player who kind of came out of nowhere. Is there another guy you can kind of think of that is just really surprised at camp? Maybe not even out of nowhere like Frankie Louvu, but maybe a guy who's already on the roster that's just playing really well, or just any guy who you think has been a positive surprise so far for the Jets.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, and I can start at one who's not really as surprised that he's playing well, but that he's playing this well, and that's Nathan Shepard. The fact that he's been able to make the transition from the D2 to NFL and what he's doing already, and to already get the official bump up on the roster. I know I talked about not paying attention to the depth chart, but you take a D2 rookie and the first chance you get to name the starters, you put him in there, that's saying something. Also, Derek Jones, cornerback, he's been really impressive. He's a long guy, long strides. He's like, just looking at him and the way he plays, he's going to remind you of Cromartie. He's still working on his technique, and he's really focused on that and, fine-tuning that. But he's played great. He's had a couple of days where he had multiple picks, really tough defense. Again, and he's the type of corner that Maccagnan and Bowles like. And then I've been really surprised by Clyde Walford too. I was not expecting him to come in and play as well. The tight end group as a whole, out of those 5 guys, Leggett's the only one who's not lighting up camp. They all look great, every single one of them. And then Trenton Cannon. I watched his tape and I was impressed with him, but watching him in person, he's quicker and faster than he looks, and he is tough. He will go in there, and he's taken some huge hits. He's a tiny little dude, but he's taken some huge hits and just kept powering through. He's been very impressive.
Yeah, so enough with the positivity. On the flip side of that, guys who have been a bit of a letdown, some no-shows, anything like that?
I would say, Teddy's been a little bit of a letdown after what I saw in minicamp. I can't say that there's too many, Leggett hasn't impressed at all when he was on the field. The offensive line is still hit or miss as a whole. I always have a tough time trying to explain how hard it can be for us to judge the offensive line too by standing on the sideline. It can be hard to see through that giant sea of bodies and know who went wrong there. But overall, the quarterback play as a whole has been a little underwhelming. But there's really not anybody. I remember last year, the last 5 years watching, and there's always a couple of people who I'd be like, yeah, that guy's getting cut. That guy's getting first cut. That guy's got. the one guy I can think of that jumped out this year was Bucky Hodges, and he was cut already. So there hasn't been anybody who's been like really underwhelming. Most of the issues is that I'd like to have seen a little bit more of some of the people, some that haven't been able to be out in the field for injuries.
Yeah, and speaking of letdowns, I'm not so sure how much of this is a letdown, but you kind of talked about the depth chart earlier with Nathan Shepard. Kind of the one thing that I noticed was Chad Hansen's position on it. I mean, they have Trey McBride, I believe, as the starting slot receiver or something for this Friday, and Chad Hansen's a little bit more down. He was a guy that had a lot of buzz kind of coming out of the year, even though he had, he only had like 10 or 15 catches or something like that. He impressed in his time. He had a few impressive catches. And then coming out of minicamp, we were talking about him. And even the first few days of training camp, people were kind of talking about how this guy, could be the real deal as a slot receiver. The talk has kind of faded on Chad Hansen these past, few days. What would you say about, Trey McBride being listed as the slot receiver ahead of him? Is there anything to read into that, or is that more of a, kind of the Frankie Louvu, Brandon Copeland over Jordan Jenkins, Josh Martin type of thing? Is it something that Jets fans should read into, that Chad is either not performing, or is it something that they should just kind of ignore and it's just kind of part of training camp?
I think it's one of you can read into it if you want. It also might not end up meaning anything, but I think it's saying more about Trey McBride and how he's been playing than it's saying about Chad Hansen. If they had to make judgments on the roster right now without playing any preseason games, Trey McBride would be on the roster without hesitation. He's had a really strong camp. Hansen, like you said, he started to impress last season. Didn't do too much during the season, but he was reliable, and they really liked what he was doing. Minicamp really strong. First opened up training camp strong, and then they put the pads on, and he did kind of fade away for a little bit. He still pops up and makes plays here and there, 2 or 3 a practice, about average. But part of the issue is that there's very few receivers, even Robbie Anderson and Quincy Nunley, when he was healthy, aren't just jumping out all over practice, and I think the large part of the reason is because of the inconsistency at quarterback. So, they've definitely had their moments. Robbie has definitely had his moments. He's looked great at times, but he's not out there just destroying everybody every rep he takes. And part of that, again, is on the quarterback. But Hansen, as you would have expected the other beat writers we expected him to show a little more than he has in training camp. But it's not like he's completely disappeared.
Well, that's good. Well, I think another guy Jets fans are hoping to see a little more of, and we'll see more of in these preseason games, is Teddy Bridgewater, which could be a piece in future trades, which is something the Jets are, trying to recruit draft picks, trying to recruit talent. A starting quarterback in the NFL is worth a lot. So how is he looking right now? When is he ultimately going to get playing time in these preseason games? What are you expecting from that?
Yeah, well, Bowles has been super secretive about how he's going to play it. The last couple of days, McCown did get a decent amount of reps. He received the least amount of reps out of the 3, but he got some. So this time last year, he got no reps leading up to that first game where he got a series. So I'm guessing McCown will start, then play a series, then they'll probably give Teddy the rest of the first half, and then bring Sam in for the second. But Teddy overall, like I said, in minicamp he was lightened up. He looked great. And in training camp, he's definitely had his moments. He's made some great throws, and but he's also struggled at times. It's just a little bit of consistency. He's a little late on some throws, a little late on some reads. He doesn't seem. I don't know how to phrase this because I don't want to say that it looks like the knee is really hampering him. But he doesn't look quite as spry and lively as he did in minicamp. So I don't know if there's something going on there, or what it is, or if it's just the defense and mental, and he's just not as sharp as he was there. But sometimes you can see that a player will go and the light will flip when the game comes on, and the Jets fans definitely need to hope that he can go out there and look good enough to entice the team to try to offer the Jets something good for a trade.
You know what I think it was, Chris? And we mentioned this before the show. It's the damn heat. How can a guy be spry and lively out there when it's 90 degrees and humid as could be and then raining every other day? I mean, you can't expect a guy to be lively 24/7 in those conditions. We got to be real. They're humans here.
You're preaching to the choir on that. And to be honest, it was definitely affecting all the players and all the quarterbacks the last couple of days. The humidity is no joke. That's disgusting out there. And you could see at times the players dragging a little bit to get through it.
Yeah, the beat reporters, they're the real hard workers out there. Those guys doing the squats and stuff, they're getting paid millions for no reason, obviously. I want to move on a little bit to some other, acquisitions from this season. A guy that's been catching a lot of names, primarily from the hardworking beat reporters, Trenton Cannon.
Yes.
Rookie, good acquisition. It looks from Mike McCagnon. We'll talk a little bit about his draft class as this goes on. But let's talk specifically about him, the reps that we're going to be seeing from him in the preseason, and if all this hype is true.
Yeah, the hype is definitely true with him. Now, I was talking to some people on Twitter about this earlier today because some people were taking what I was saying and going a little far with it, which, that never happens on Twitter. But
Hall of Famer, right? That's what I'm taking out of this.
Hall of Famer asking if he's going to be a feature back, and I'm like, this guy is probably maxed out. He's going to give his peak's going to give you 10 to 15 touches a game. Because he's a small guy, and he's not even like, I'm not just talking short, he's not particularly stocky or anything either. Because everyone keeps throwing Darren Sproles type that, and I'm like, Darren Sproles is like really thick. But he can, from what I've seen, he's dangerous. He is really quick. He's got elite speed, and again, he's really tough. The way he will go right at a defender, he'll make him juke. He's got good hands. He's been really, and this is the thing about it. I try my hardest to avoid talking about running backs in training camp because most of the time they're not hitting, and even when they have the pads on, they're not fully really hitting. So I've never seen a running back look bad in practice. Like, it just doesn't happen. They look good because no one's really touching them. But
Thomas Rawls?
Has looked, yes, he looked good earlier. He hasn't been on the field, so it's not. But he looked good earlier because they're not tackling him. And so, and sometimes I can't even see if they get the hand or not. He just keeps running. But for me to say that a running back has jumped out and has looked as great as he does, that's he's been that impressive that I can't just be like, yeah, okay, it's that. He has looked really good, and again, he's not somebody you're going to give the ball to 20, 30 times a game. He's not going to be a bell cow, but you can use him in the right circumstances and catch defense off guard, or just use it to open up space and targets for other people. And he definitely has the potential to be a dangerous weapon for them.
Yeah, Chris, Trenton Cannon's obviously a player that I think Jets fans are getting excited about because we don't really see late-round picks have immediate impact, All right, talking about the tight ends that you talked about earlier, that's probably the most heated competition as far as there are going to be guys that are going to get cut that have had a good camp. Neil Sterling, you mentioned Jordan Leggett hasn't really been playing, but Neil Sterling, Clive Walford, Eric Tomlinson, and Chris Herndon, you could all make the case that they should make the roster. How do you see it kind of all shaking out? Do you see the Jets keeping 3 tight ends? I saw, a 53-man roster prediction where they kept 4 because of this, issue. Do you think they try to stash Sterling in the practice squad? Just how do you see this whole tight end room, playing out?
Like I said, I'm going to sit down tomorrow morning and try to make my 53 roster prediction. Right now, before I've really looked into it, I think I'm going to try to roll with 4 tight ends on the roster. Depending on how, the depth works out everywhere else, I might have to shave one of them off. And if I do, it would be Sterling, and I'd try to stash him on the practice squad. But right now, I think you're going to have Tomlinson being the de facto starter. I think he'd be the starter, not necessarily get the most reps, but because of his blocking ability, and he's a sneaky good receiver. He's a dependable receiver. He's not going to make giant, huge plays for break 80-yard touchdowns, but he can get the job done. But with his blocking, I think they'll probably stick with him as a starter. But Chris Herndon has looked the best out of all of them as far as receiving the ball too. So I think he will get the most targets and the most snaps, or run the most routes and all that. But Walford he's the one I've been most surprised by. He's looked really great, and I didn't think he had a chance to make this roster. After watching training camp these past couple of weeks, I don't see how he doesn't make the roster. So they got those three in there, and then Sterling, he's just really solid too. And I think that with the questions they still have on the offensive line, the idea that they could carry four tight ends doesn't seem too much for me. I wouldn't be surprised if they go three, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if they go four.
All right, preseason game coming up Friday. So we're gonna make you walk into this question blind. These questions blind, actually. We're gonna put you on the spot. Basically, your whole reputation riding on the line here. Are you prepared?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
All right. So, before the preseason, going into this game, who is going to be a surprise cut and who is going to be a surprise make?
Ooh. Okay. We got to see who's going to qualify as a cut. Like Jordan Leggett and Darius Stewart, did they qualify as surprise cuts?
I'll accept Darius Stewart as a surprise cut.
Yeah, considering he was a third-round pick last year, I would think that would be a surprise. But with the rest of that depth there, Pryor stays healthy through preseason. I don't. Now he's not going to get cut at the final 53 because he's got the suspension. But so I could see them just put him on the suspension list and cutting him when he comes back.
Ooh, that's a cop-out. I'm not going to let you do that. That's a cop-out there.
I didn't think about that until afterwards. See, I just told on myself. So
it's okay.
All right. Let's see. Surprise. Can't think of too many who would qualify as a surprise. Malden's not going to count as a surprise.
No, I feel like that's a surprise. I would be shocked.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I have him making my 53.
Yeah. All right, well, then I'm going to go with Malden. He's made a couple plays earlier in camp, but I really haven't seen anything. Again, they definitely have questions at that linebacker, especially with coverage. But Lulu, Copeland, even Minter and Kevin Pierre-Louis on the inside have looked like good depth there. I don't see Malden making this roster.
All right, and what about a surprise make?
A surprise make, Derek Jones is not going to qualify there. Trey McBride. Trey McBride would probably be a surprise make. Again, Clive Walford could fit in there. And then, I don't want to say Louvu again, but Louvu.
Well, I think undrafted free agent, that would be a pretty shocking one.
Right.
I'm going to guess most people have no idea who he is.
Well, and another one, Demetrius Flowers. I think Demetrius Flowers, I think he's going to make the roster at fullback.
You just, you hit our ears there. We're a big Demetri Flowers podcast right here. Big Demetri Flowers, looking to make him a friend of the podcast soon.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I didn't go with him right away because I didn't. And to me, that's not really a surprise when they took him. And with Lawrence Thomas, he's going to make it. But I know a lot of people seem to still be doubting that. So,
is Lawrence Thomas? Is he just that inferior to him?
He's a defensive lineman that they asked to play fullback, and he did an adequate job. But you have a real fullback now. If you're going to keep a fullback on the roster. Lawrence, he's not. It'd be one thing if he was a really good defensive lineman and you could just have him as depth. But he's with the rest of the D line they don't really have him as a back. It doesn't make sense. With Flowers, you have a real legit fullback, and if you're going to keep a fullback on the roster in 2018, he should be Demetri Flowers.
All right, Chris. 2 more questions for you, man. We'll start with this Friday. Obviously, Jets playing Atlanta. What are your expectations for the game? Who are you looking out for? Any predictions you have? Just kind of your overall thoughts on this Friday's game.
Well, one thing, the Falcons, I think the Falcons are a really good matchup for them to have this week. Obviously, the Falcons are a pretty good team, so you'd rather face them in the preseason, in the regular season, but their defense, they have really good depth. So Darnold, a lot of those second, third string guys are going to be going up against some pretty decent players. So you're going to get a good look at what these players are actually like and what they can do. Obviously, I'm going to be watching out for Sam. I'm going to be looking at the offensive line because if that offensive line isn't a big improvement over last year, if they're not at least solid, then we're going to be having a lot of arguments and debates about Sam or whoever's playing quarterback and how much is that is their fault and how much is the offensive line's fault. And then I'm going to be looking at the secondary on defense. Part of that's probably just my natural bias towards the secondary, but I really want to see what all this group looks like. And obviously going up against the Falcons, I know obviously Julio Jones isn't going to play a lot, but they're still a team that likes to air it out. That is more of a passing team, so I think even the backup, you'll see them do they'll test the Jets secondary a lot. I'm really excited and interested to see what Derrick Jones is going to look like going up against another team's offense and see what that's like, to see if this is real. So those are the main things I'll be looking for.
Yeah, and lastly, and we obviously talk about week one of the preseason, kind of the bigger picture. Kind of what are your expectations for this year for the Jets? I mean, a lot of fans, are going really optimistic, saying Sam's going to light it up and, we'll sneak into the playoffs. Some fans are a little more, tempered down and think that the Jets will still be picking top 10 next year, can add another edge rusher. Kind of where do you see this season playing out, and whatnot?
I see them a 6 to 8 win team. That's really I see their ceiling at 8 wins, and that's factoring in that they don't play a particularly tough schedule. They have a lot of good young talent on this team. They still have holes, and the talent that they have is young. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be, there's going to be 1 or 2 games where they beat somebody they probably shouldn't have, and everyone's going to get excited. And then there's going to be a couple games where they lose to somebody they have no business losing, and everyone's going to think they're the worst thing ever. That happens every year, and it's going to happen now. But as much as I think they have a really bright future, and I think this is how fans have to look at it, you don't have to root for tanking anymore. They got the quarterback, so that's good. You can just root for the win, but you have to temper it, and you really have to root as looking to the future. This season is a warm-up to the next couple years. This season is to get you ready to see Jamal Adams and Marcus May take that next step. You want to see Quincy stay healthy. You want to see Robbie stay out of trouble and take the next step. You want to see them get signed in the offseason. You want to see if Leonard Williams can handle more double teams. You want to see all that stuff. So more than focusing on the wins and losses, because while, yes, I won't rule out the possibility of sneaking in to the playoffs in a weak AFC, it's still highly unlikely. And you got to look at this. You root for the wins, but you more root for how these young kids look and what the future ahead of you looks like.
Yeah. I think that's well said, Chris. You've done a phenomenal job tonight. We put you on the spot a couple times. Basically put your career on the line with the surprise cuts and stuff. I think, that's how we do it here.
All right, no problem. I accept the challenge. It's all right.
I think we can.
You'll get angry DMs if I lose my job because of this or something. But what's going to do?
You're officially a friend of the podcast now. So if you do lose your job, we can welcome in a third host. It would be more of a producer role, but
what a downgrade!
Look, we have a great 401k, options here. Okay,
dental plan.
We do maternity leave.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of places don't offer that. We're all inclusive here at the Jet Take. Chris, it's been wonderful having you. Go ahead and shout out all your Twitters and Instagrams and whatever the kids are on these days. So you deserve to follow.
All right, thanks. Yeah, you can follow me at C Nimbley, Nimbley. I don't really use my Instagram too much, but it's the same on there. That's my Twitter, or you can follow Jets Insider, and check out jetsinsider.com for all the articles and everything we do. And but yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot. I'm tweeting, I'm answering and responding to questions, trying to, have a lot of fun and crack jokes, but also give the fans what they want, which is their Jets news all the time.
All right. I think that's pretty good. Last question: will you wear a friend of the podcast T-shirt if we send you one? We're doing this.
No,
we're doing this. We're gonna send one.
Kyle tried to design. He tried to design a friend of the podcast T-shirt. It's one of the
I gotta get rid of the other the. I agree.
It looks terrible.
There's a the in our logo, and I put a the on the design, so it says the twice. But we're working on it. We're gonna send one to you, Manish, Darren Lee, and Derek Jones, because that's what we got.
2 others, jeez. Well, made the cut. It was nice to have you on the show, man.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Anytime, guys.
Thanks for being on.
Night. It was one of the worst design T-shirts I've ever seen in my life. It looks like you made it in Microsoft Word.
To be the thing that was tough. I'll agree. I looked at it. I was like, all right, he's got a point there. So I got rid of the. But the thing is, we just want our logo on there. We want it to be simple, because if we just make it this flashy thing, and then the PR people from the Jets are going to see that, and it's going to kind of be annoying. And then obviously we have some non-friendlies that are in the building a little too often. So we'll put it at that. But I think promote the brand, Ben.
If we stick with our consistency and keep growing our listens. By the way, last week was by far and away the most listened to week we've ever had at the Jets.
2 episodes in, Hurt.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess 2. Well, even if we didn't have 2 episodes, it would have been. Thank you to those who tuned in last week. We're hoping to keep growing. But my point was, I guess if we keep growing, Joe will give us a T-shirt, 1 T-shirt, and Kyle will burn it on the friend of the podcast shirt that we're. That's coming out of your pocket. You know that, right? Because if you want it designed, then you're going to have to buy it and then send it to them. If they wear it, though, if the logo is big enough, it is free promotion.
Good. Yeah. I feel like we should split it, but, it's whatever.
But I'm not in favor of it. All right. Well, we're going to get to calls in just a bit.
So.
Yeah, all right, let's talk a little bit about some of the news this week. Jamal Adams had a pretty great interview with Bleacher Report this past week.
Yeah.
Really in-depth.
I'm going to rant about this.
If you want to check it out, just go to Bleacher Report, and you can find it there. It was pretty great. But one of the quotes that everybody was talking about was he kind of called out the laziness, I guess, of last year's team. And I guess kind of when he got there, because he did mention there was a shift as the season got going, and I think a lot of Jets he didn't specifically cite it, but a lot of Jets cited a halftime week 2 at Oakland as kind of the time when, I don't know exactly what happened there, but there was a speech made there. They went on to lose 42-20 or something, but they basically, that was kind of when the season turned. And even though they went 5-11, they did lose 6 of their games by a touchdown or less. But yeah, he kind of just talked about, how when he got there, guys were just complacent with being bad. They weren't really working that hard. And some people have taken that the wrong way, I guess. I guess some people are like, well, this rookie came in and is just, dissing us. I don't have an issue with it because I think this was more targeted at a few guys that are no longer here, namely Muhammad Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson.
Yep.
But Kyle, I wanted to get your thoughts on the whole, his whole quote, his whole interview on just kind of calling the Jets from last year lazy. Now, you should preface this with he did talk about how this year, the energy is much different, as everybody's been talking about. So I don't know why any Jets players or fans would be getting that upset that he's calling out their laziness. But sorry, your thoughts on it.
Well, in the snowflake of generations that we are, Ben, people get offended by everything. Ben actually just dropped his mic on that one.
Fainted.
It is common for people to get offended by, things that are unfortunate truths that you would not like to usually call people out on. But when a team who is consistently mocked and critiqued by the media for an entire offseason, being told that you are going to be 0-16 and you are full of quote-unquote veterans who are supposed to prove otherwise and yet still don't, I can understand where the term complacency comes from. And I know Jamal isn't going to say anything, but that's Muhammad Wilkerson, that's Sheldon Richardson, and that's, some of the older veterans in the locker room who, 1, didn't make it past training camp, 2, were cut later in the year, and 3, don't deserve to be on this roster anymore. And I think that's fine. Anybody who took offense to this was a person who was lazy. That's who took offense to this because they got called out, and I'm sure they got called out in meetings as is by the coaches. There's nothing worse in the NFL than a lazy player. Look at what Muhammad Wilkerson did to us. Great 4 years. Great 4 years. We had an edge rusher, a guy who was a model citizen, did great on the field, said all the right things in the media, did a lot off the field for the community. Soon as he got paid, he sat down in his lazy boy and, just ate ice cream sandwiches all day. Didn't even show up to his damn birthday party. That's complacency. That is laziness. That's not acceptable in the NFL. Jamal Adams is the type of guy who is high energy. You may not like what he has to say all the time, but he's usually pretty damn right. He's a success story, whether you like to admit it or not. I know he hasn't won anything in the NFL by any means. He isn't cashing any contracts yet. He's a damn good safety. He's going into his second year, and he's probably top 15 as it goes. He's got Pro Bowl level talent, just hasn't reached it yet. This is a kid who knows what he's talking about in the game, and he's one of those guys who's never going to give up. He's always going to fight for his team. So he's the perfect person to call people out for this because he's proven in college and he's proven in the NFL. He is a leader. He is an alpha dog. He is the president, hence the name. And when you call out people from it, when a leader calls out the people below him who are supposed to be helping him, people don't like that. And that's okay. That happens. But as fans, and as, I guess, individuals in the locker room who didn't like this, you have to understand it's for a reason. You have to be motivated. HBO's Hard Knocks was on last night. Cleveland Browns went 0-16 last year. There's still a lot of guys on that roster. Hell, the head coach is still freaking there. They won 1 game in 2 years. Say what you want about lack of talent. There's talent on that team. There's a lot of talent on the team. They're NFL players. You're telling me they couldn't win 1 game last year? That's laziness on all levels, not just players, on all levels there. But with the Jets, what we did with the talent last year, because there's a lot of talent on the Jets too. Robbie, Jamal, Marcus, Leonard, et cetera, who were there last year. And we still only got 5 wins. I think that speaks a lot.
Yeah. I got to say, just got to cut in here. It never really occurred to me how awkward that would have been. That Muhammad Wilkerson had a birthday party and he just didn't show up. Just like 30 guys just standing around.
It's like texting him, hey man, when you come to that
meeting? Ghosting all. They're all just, all right, I guess we'll cut and blow the candles on this. There probably were cupcakes after Dante Hightower a few years ago, but geez, I heard.
Why
that
does
story.
that get a bad rep? Why does the whole Dante Hightower thing get? I mean, that's
because
a good player.
The only pitch we could make to him because we were in such a bad state, I guess,
was cupcakes. Cupcakes and money? I can sign for the New York Jets.
Well, they went all out. They went all out. They decorated the facility we were like a clingy girlfriend. We just scared him away. He was like, nah. I'll just go back to Bill Belichick and freaking win championship. oh dang! Now I gotta.
Ben slipped.
That's like the second or third time I've slept on this show. All right, we're gonna get to callers. One more thing to talk about. Kind of the only notable.
Rant.
Yeah, that was a sizable rant, I guess.
Size is everything.
Yeah, boy. You curse, or cuss occasionally once every few episodes. I've been very sporadic with it, unless you do, and then I let it loose. But
yeah, then
I've very rarely been the first one to break it. I'm normally pretty clean.
I said freaking in the rant. I was ready to go.
You were good. All right. Last thing to talk about. Are you worried about Kelvin Beachum at all?
Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast. I forgot. Yeah, we did have him on.
I forgot about him.
Okay.
We're sending a shirt to him.
Jeez, let's clean it up. He's in a brace right now on his foot. The offensive line is mediocre to okay as is, but the depth behind it is really the issue. And Kelvin was a guy who struggled with injuries when he got to New York, before his time in New York. And it's kind of a big deal that your starting left tackle is struggling this much with injuries. And nobody's really talking about it. I think he's expected to be ready for week 1, but nobody's really talking about the timetable at all. Brent Qualley is currently the starting left tackle and will be for this Friday. So, how concerned are you about Kelvin Beachum, and how much of a difference do you think he'll make not being there, as he was the Jets' best offensive lineman last year?
Yeah, I think he'll be there week 1. Offensive line, it's a position where you literally have to manhandle a guy who is running a lot of the times full speed at you. Injuries happen. Unfortunately, it happens in training camp. It doesn't seem like it's anything serious. He'll be ready for week 1, as far as we can tell right now. Like I said in last week's episode, I went into pretty good depth about it. We have depth at the offensive line. I don't think left tackle is the greatest position to lose your starter at this point in the offseason, but injuries happen. He'll be back week 1. I'm not too worried about it. He was our most consistent and best offensive lineman last year. I don't care what you say about his short arms. The kid's hella productive. He's a good left tackle in the NFL. That is the anchor of our offensive line right now. So the sooner he's back, the better, obviously. But I'm not sweating over it, to put it like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and get to the callers. We'll start with 201. 201, you're on the line. What's your name? Where are you from?
Yes, this is Matt Trainer from Seahawks, New Jersey.
I saw your tweet. Matt purchased the Summer of Sam tank, I believe, from the Turn on the Jets shop.
Oh,
so if you want to look
under the podcast.
Yes, if you want to look as cool as Matty does in his tank, you can go to turnonthejets.com and find the store there. Matty, what's on your mind tonight?
Nothing. Really, the main storyline of the Jets is this quarterback competition, and like you said, a friend of the podcast, so I listen to turnonthejets.com, you guys, your takes, and also during work every single day I listen to ESPN New York, and everyone's got a bunch of takes, so, that's really the big topic for me.
I'll tell you what, this is the right place for takes. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I guess it's in the name.
Let's
talk a little bit about, let's hear some of your Jets takes. We'll talk about Friday in a second. I want to talk about this running back core because it's surprisingly playing well so far, and we haven't even played a game so far. But I guess in the 10 practices or whatnot, the group has been fairly impressive. Isaiah Crowell seems to have been penciled in as the starting, workhorse running back. Bilal Powell's kind of the change of pace, who can do it all. I think he's the longest. He's got to be the longest tenured Jet on this team. Obviously Trenton Cannon's really impressing, the 6th-round pick this year. With the running backs coach calling him a Ferrari back there. And then Elijah McGuire, who had a pretty nice rookie year, fractured his foot, but should be ready for the beginning of the season. How do you think they'll distribute kind of the workload of these running backs? What do you see each guy's role being? Because, it's one of those things where there's so much talent, I guess. We haven't seen it on the field yet. And how are they going to try to distribute all of that? So how do you see the workload being distributed?
Yeah, well, we could just take a look at an example of the two teams that are playing the Super Bowl this year. They really didn't primarily have a number one running back. I mean, Ajayi was supposed to be like that for the Eagles, but he didn't end up being like that. So it's like having defensive linemen. You can't have too much depth at a position that takes contact every single play. So once they signed Crowell, I thought automatically, okay, that's going to be a first and second down running back. And what I've been seeing through preseason tweets and through all the videos so far is that they're actually having him catch the ball in the backfield more. So I think since Powell's getting up there in age, they're kind of trying to ease his load so that he can have more explosive plays. Because as we've seen the past couple of years when, the running back ahead of Powell has been going down, we were like, okay, here's his opportunity. He's going to, he'll show he's number one running back. And the explosive plays kind of come down. He would have a couple here and there, for example, the Chargers game where he had a big run, but they would come down significantly as his workload went up. What kind of hurts us at the moment is, I would believe, Elijah McGuire going down. He's another one that, you give him 10 carries, but then you also have him come out of the backfield, catch a few passes, and he can make explosive plays. The Jaguars game comes to mind, but from what I'm reading, Cannon, our newest draft pick, he's making some plays out there. We'll see this Friday, like you said, when contact comes into play, if he's able to, handle that and to make guys miss in space. But I like it. Outside the Jets realm, all these analysts and, these reporters that, they take a look at the Jets probably once a month and, make their statements. I think we have a very underrated running back core, especially as the season goes on, and we're going to be able to show, what kind of talent that we have.
Matty, I want to talk about the whole Jamal Adams comments thing. Are you mad about this at all?
No, I love it.
Right, cool.
I love it specifically because, I mean, like you said before, people got a little salty that a rookie would come in and, kind of take charge, but someone has to. I mean, what you're doing wasn't working. And, for example, I think his comments were kind of mostly aimed towards, Muhammad Wilkerson and, any associates that were kind of linked towards him because, this is a guy, I was rooting for him when he came out. He was very productive, and then all of a sudden you're showing up late to meetings, you're making millions of dollars, you're holding out, you're out of shape in the off season, and you're supposed to be the leader of this team. You're getting paid to perform and play at a high level. So I love that he's taking charge of it. I mean, someone's got to.
Yeah, and speaking on that situation, I mean, it's one of those things that doesn't make much sense to me why people would be upset about it, and it doesn't really sound like players are upset about it. It sounds kind of like fans. I could kind of understand if it was last year, if it was still the same team, and he's going to just kind of all, he's calling out guys for just being lazy, saying, this team has just gotten used to losing and they're lazy, because then you're calling out your teammates. It looks like your locker room is kind of caving in on itself, like there's dysfunction there and that, they have bad chemistry, basically. But what he said in context was basically that when he got here, guys were complacent with losing. And then he added, later on in the interview how excited he is for this year and how it got better, during the season, how they really grew closer together. You could see that in their play. And then this year is obviously, he's just talked about, it's just a completely different vibe. So anybody's upset about it really probably just took the quote out of context. We talked about Khalil Mack with Chris Nimbley a little bit earlier. He's saying they're 100% interested, which you'd expect because they have the need and the money for him. They don't know if they can beat the price or whatnot. Matt, how do you see the situation playing out? Do you think the Jets have any chance at it? How much do you think it would take to get him? Just your overall thoughts on the Khalil Mack situation.
I think it mostly depends on what Maccagnan is willing to give up. I mean, he's shown this year that he'll do what it takes to go get his quarterback. I mean, in the past couple of drafts, if he liked someone specifically, he would trade a pick to move up and get them. I think it's more of them doing their internal work to see what kind of individual Khalil Mack is. First of all, he's obviously, if not the best, at least top 2 pass rushers in the NFL. It's just people don't realize that, they just had a new regime come in. And clearly, the Raiders for the past couple of years have had, high expectations, high standards, and their defense, besides the Jets from last year, would be getting shredded on a daily basis. So you weren't winning with him. Obviously, he's a tremendous player, but you got to realize that this guy didn't even practice once with this new regime, tried to show them what he's all about, what kind of individual, what kind of person he is. So he's just holding out automatically for the money. That was my big problem with Wilkerson as well. The people that, hold out for the money when they're already making at least above $10 million. They're going to get paid. They're going to get their contracts, and I understand there can always be an injury that will happen, but I'm more of like people, for example, like Jamal Adams, that are all about the team. Like we just fixed our locker room problem, and I think it's up to the Jets to do their due diligence to see if this is a guy that'll buy in. And then you got to look at it as we have a young team. Leonard Williams is coming up for an extension. A couple of years there'll be Jamal Adams, Marcus May. We got Anunwa, Robbie Anderson. What would it say if we traded for this guy and automatically gave him this huge contract that we're supposed to be saving this cap to plug in holes next year on this guy who hasn't even, stepped on a practice field for us?
Yeah, no doubt. Talking about this Friday against Atlanta, I mean, what are your expectations, I guess? I mean, who are you looking out for, kind of your predictions, just your overall thoughts on Friday's night? I mean, first game of 2018, and somebody's talking about this on Twitter, how this is kind of the most excited and I guess I'll include myself in this, I've been for a Jets preseason to start in a long time. I mean, they mentioned the 09 with Sanchez against the Rams, and then a few other ones going back. I mean, I guess the one against the Giants, opening up the new stadium, coming off an AFC championship or whatnot. But rookie quarterback, a lot of positive buzz. We're finally going to get to see him in a Jets uniform in action. Just what are you looking out for on Friday?
Well, yeah, first off, it's funny because anytime there's a new quarterback, that's always the general buzz. I could specifically remember last year against the Lions, my friends and I were out, and we saw Hackenberg warming up, and my friend and I were like, if Hackenberg's starting, like, we're going to watch this. Like, so, like, we saw him get on the field, so we, like, moved out of the way, and, like, that's just how excited we are, just to find, like, a quarterback, who's going to be, like, quote-unquote, our savior.
And he got, like, pancaked on, like, the first play.
Oh, yeah. We saw that. Basically, he didn't pick up a blitz, and we were like, oh, okay, this isn't going to end well. So that was short-lived. But, I'll be there Friday. Obviously, Darnold's the thing. That's the main attraction. But besides that, it's going to be the newcomers, rookies, and veterans. See how Terrell Pryor looks. I mean, he was someone in the offseason, like when we signed him, I was like, all right, this guy was productive. He had his case of the drops, in the past couple of years, but I read several articles saying that his ankle wasn't, at all basically intact last year, and he was trying to play through it because he was on a one-year deal. So I want to see how he looks. Cannon is another one, for example. Nathan Shepard, how's he going to look? Atlanta has a decent line, so, he's going to be going against an upgraded lineman from what he's going against in practice. And how the secondary is going to look when they're gelling together. I don't know if Julio's going to play, but I'm assuming Matt Ryan's going to get a possession or two. And obviously, probably the biggest question will be the outside linebackers. I know it's going through a rotation right now. It seems like Jordan Jenkins is the only solidified starter, but they're going to give these other guys a chance. And maybe with the new depth in defensive line, the speed with the linebackers, the coverage from our secondary, maybe these guys who I would say are more on the average or pedestrian side or linebackers, can get more one-on-ones and will be able to attack the quarterback.
No doubt, Matt. It was great having you on the show, man. Shout out your Twitter so our listeners can give you a follow.
Yeah, so my Twitter is TrainerBadger07. That's TRAYNOR. Basically, Jets takes frequently every day and sprinkle a couple of pun intended, and a couple of LeBron tweets here and there. So that's what you'll find on my page.
Well, looking forward to it. Matty, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Absolutely, guys. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, great call. A lot of good stuff there. I'm looking forward to the LeBron tweets.
Oh, those ought to be great.
Kyle, before we get to our...
Are we an anti-LeBron podcast now?
No, I'm a pro-LeBron. I've been pretty pro-LeBron my entire career.
No, he's pretty annoying.
No, I can't stand the Warriors. I can't stand any Warrior. But LeBron, I mean, like, I don't know. He's the first basketball player.
That's because they whoop the Trailblazers' ass every year.
I mean, they whoop everybody's ass. I don't mean to.
Yeah.
Not a cop out, but yeah, I don't know. I think
that sounded like a cop out.
No, I like LeBron. That his buzzer beater against, I think it was Orlando in the playoffs, where he like barely touched the ground on an inbound, like 2007. That was the first 2008 or something like that. That was the first play I ever watched basketball. So I gotta like him. And he played in Miami. So do you have any animosity towards him for leaving?
Yeah, he's a hoe for leaving Miami.
Okay. Wouldn't he be a hoe for going there, or?
No, because he got out of Cleveland, dog.
All right. Before we get to the next caller, let's do some predictions for this Friday. I'll just give you like three or four, something like that. And then you just say, true or false, over, under, type of that. I'll set the context for it. All right. We'll start with playing time for the quarterbacks. I'm going to say Sam Darnold will play 3 quarters. True or false?
False.
And why?
Well, wait, complete or partial?
I'll go complete. I'm saying full complete because I don't think McCown play. I think McCown plays 1 quarter and Bridgewater. Okay, so what are your thoughts on it?
I think it will be McCown for a series, Bridgewater for the remaining of the half, and then Darnold for the next 2 quarters.
I'm thinking. I wonder if they don't even play McCown.
I think they will.
Yeah, it makes sense to do kind of what they did last year and just give them the first series. So I could see McCown playing the first series and then, Bridgewater playing the next quarter. The thing about this is it's more important to get Sam Darnold the reps, especially if he's going to be your week 1 starter, than it is to showcase Teddy. because I understand they have to give Teddy playing time because they want to get a better offer, or they want to get an offer for him. Nimbley was kind of talking about how he's kind of fallen off since minicamp a little bit. Pads have come on, hasn't been as sharp. He's still been a starting quarterback, but, hasn't been top of his game, kind of like, all the hype was building in April and whatnot. I wonder if I think they're just going to play him for a quarter. I don't know. Part of me has that feeling. I could definitely see, though, you being right of him playing basically 2 quarters and then Darnold, starting the second game or something and maybe the third game. I fully expect Darnold to be the starter. So in my mind, I think the Jets are going to focus on him getting the most amount of reps, which is kind of why I go back to I wonder if they don't even give McCown that first series because they know what McCown is. They know McCown can come in and play no matter what. But, I'm going back and forth on this. I'm really waffling on this take, but I'm going to go, I don't think McCown plays at all. Because I could easily see him playing, but here's my thing is even if he does play, but Kyle, I think he'll play maybe a series or 2 in the 4th game, because if he does play, it's going to be in the regular season. And the only reason you'd have him play is to shake off the rust. He's been in the system for a year. He was here last year, so it's not like he has to develop any more chemistry.
New offensive coordinator.
I know it is a new offensive coordinator, but he's not changing. He was the quarterback's coach last year, so he's installing his stuff, but it's not, drastically different. You're not switching from, a West Coast to a, air raid offense or something like that. You're taking you're taking John Morton's offense and then putting Jeremy Bates' spin on it. But I think they'll play him in the 4th game to shake off any rust if he has to go in, because I think he's going to be the only other quarterback on the roster behind Sam. So then if Sam goes down, he's ready. But if you play him week 1 or of the preseason, that doesn't shake off rust, because then he's not playing week 2, week 3. He might play week 4. I don't know. So I'm going to go. They give Bridgewater first quarter, Sam 3 quarters. Sam and Bridgewater for second, third. I wonder if they'd even pull off a give Sam all of the second game or something like that. I think the Jets are going to be creative, but I think they know in order for him to be the week 1 starter, he needs to get as many reps as possible. And the only thing that's stopping them from literally just playing him the entire preseason is one injury. But more importantly is they have to showcase Teddy to get him the trade. So I'm saying Teddy plays 1 quarter, Sam plays 3. All right, next one. Over, under, push. Sam Darnold will have 2 touchdowns. They could be rushing 2.
Ooh, that's a good one, because I know they'll get in that red zone and they'll try to throw, but it won't work.
Yeah, he's been tearing up the red zone drills, Kyle. I don't know if I'd speak to
against, third string.
Our defense. He's playing against the starters in some of those drills, Kyle.
Not most of them.
McCown's been getting less first-team reps.
Actually, I wasn't there, so I can't comment on anything training camp related.
In that situation, you probably can't, because they were mixed up. I know what you were referencing, but
yeah.
Go on. Over, under, push, 2 total touchdowns.
For the first game or all preseason?
First game.
Okay.
I'd be kind of disappointed if you only had 2 touchdowns the entire preseason.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked, but it's the preseason.
I think you've just gotten conditioned to watching a Hackenberg-led,
that is so true. Ben, you have no idea how true that is. I'm expecting a Bryce Petty performance.
Bryce Petty put up 3 or 4 touchdowns in the Giants game. So you're not expecting him to drive down the field and score? You're that?
No, it's his first time playing an NFL defense against other teams. I feel like he'll actually have a pretty bad performance. I'm not expecting anything great from him in his first game, but he'll be the starter week 1.
Training camp, Kyle. Jeez.
A lot of guys have good training camps. The lights come on, they put on the pads. They have other teams. They have to switch up the cadence. It's real time.
One of the most pessimistic takes you've had, because you're basically insinuating that Sam Darnold, isn't going to be ready for the spotlight at all. I think he's going to go. Oh yeah, he'll throw interceptions.
First game.
I think he'll have 2 touchdowns and an interception. And it'll be, 15.
Yeah, that's not great.
I think it'll be 21 for 26, 2 touchdowns, interception, whatever. Maybe 25 yards rushing. Something like that. I think he'll have a nice stat line. But, Kyle, his rookie year.
If you try to call me Keddy one more time, I'll end this podcast.
That's my best friend in real life, and they both start with the Ks. But, I think that's what you're looking at his rookie year, is he's going to have a lot of touchdowns and a lot of interceptions. And I think you're going to see kind of a 2-to-1 ratio, the entire season, and I think that extends to Friday night. So you're saying under for 2 total touchdowns on Friday?
No, I'll say push.
What a waffling take this is. So he does get 2 touchdowns on Friday.
I said push. So yes, I had to think about that.
Yeah. All right. Last one.
But I don't think it will be great.
Tonight. All right. I mean, 2 touchdowns would be pretty exciting. Yeah, he's going to have mistakes.
No, I wouldn't be excited by 2 touchdowns. Because there are some,
What are these takes, Kyle? Jeez.
Maybe one's a screen. That isn't on him.
Okay, so you're saying he could throw like a little dump off to Trenton Cannon and he gets a
yes.
touchdown. You're like, okay. I mean, I could see that, but that's pretty pessimistic. No, I think it'll be
I'm being pretty honest. He's a rookie who is starting his first game.
Yeah, I could see him throwing an interception on a deep ball and the safety just picks it off, something like that. But he might have a
Twitter would blow up. Twitter would blow up.
Well, not if he's throwing. Okay, whatever. Not if he's playing
Let's
well.
get to Todd. Todd Bowles.
Right. Last one. One of the young secondary members will get a pick, true or false. So I guess this counts Adams and May, but this is
Matt
more...
Schaub still the Falcons' backup quarterback?
I actually believe he might be. Hold on, let me check on that. If so, yeah.
If so, yes.
Let me look up Matt Schaub. Well, I just look at Falcons QB depth chart. Hold on, bear with me. I'm typing with one hand.
Did they draft anybody this year? I would hate to waste a preseason game on Matt Schaub. Like, I couldn't put out Matt Schaub if I was a team.
Well, it is Matt Schaub. They do have Garrett Grayson, though. The next Peyton Manning, according to you.
Oh, the Jets are going to lose. Jets are going to get blown out.
He's a 4th string, just for your next Peyton Manning.
He'll have more touchdowns than Sam Darnold.
All-time quote there. Or
watch him
Garrett
light
Grayson
it up.
The next Peyton Manning. I could totally see him. I'd be all there for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our last call of the night. We're going to go to Todd, and then we're going to close out the show.
You owe me an apology.
For what?
Everything.
Oh, if Garrett Grayson throws more touchdowns than Sam Darnold?
Game.
All right, how about this? If Garrett Grayson, even though he's currently listed as the 4th-string quarterback, but I could totally see them not playing Matt Schaub or something. If Garrett Grayson has more touchdowns than Sam Darnold, what's this bet here? I'll do it on next week's show. We have to have some sort of agreement here.
Ben will buy me a friend of the podcast shirt.
I don't want to bet money here. I feel all right. Fine. I will buy a friend of the podcast shirt and send it to you. Now,
but it's not the other way around.
No, but if Sam Darnold has more touchdowns than Garrett Grayson, I got to get something out of you.
I won't call you a dick next episode.
No, that is just not even. I need something of substance here. Todd is waiting on his call, Kyle. Come on.
Let's let Todd decide.
All right, we're gonna bring on Todd.
Todd, don't you screw me over, man.
Todd, welcome to the show, man. We'll start. We're not even gonna ask you how you're doing. We're just gonna skip the formalities here. What should?
All right, here's the deal. How much is the front of the podcast T-shirt worth?
It's like $25 with shipping and everything.
It's pretty expensive because we have to use a third party to make the shirt.
So it has to be at least $25 worth of.
No. Todd. I didn't give this to you to be the voice of reason. Okay.
I think he's definitely right. It has to be
on my
something.
side.
It has to be something. All right, Madden just came out.
Maybe look, you brought a Jew on the podcast. You're gonna get in economics.
Oh my God.
I was like, did he just say that? You're Jewish, right? We can't get in trouble for that.
I am.
All
yes,
right, cool.
I am.
Cool. Shalom. We're all kosher here. Not trying to. I think our boss is Jewish, so we might get in trouble. I'm not sure.
All right. I think $25 or something is fair. So Kyle, I'm looking for. Madden just came out. Maybe you splurge on some PSN money. Send me that.
You can. Never mind.
I kind of know what you're gonna say. All right,
yeah,
Todd.
You know where I was going.
Kyle and I will figure this out. But what's on your mind tonight, Todd?
Well, one thing I was thinking about when I was hearing the other guy talk, who was it, like Mike or something, about Matt. It was some M. Anyway, about the running backs. I agree with a lot of what he was saying, except for Trenton Cannon. I don't know, I'm a little bit more down on him than most. Not because I think he's doing bad, just because, he's still what was he, like a 6th-round pick? I forget now.
Yeah,
but anyway,
6th round.
So, and like small school guy, I don't know. I kind of think of it like, who was it back in McCagnon's first draft? Was it like Jalen Saunders, something like that? Who everyone was talking him up, and he was going to be the next.
Jalen Saunders.
Oh, that was it. That's right. Yeah. My bad, Mac. But anyway, he was going to be like the next big returner, and he was doing well in early, and then the games came, and he like muffed every single punt ever, he ever attempted. So, just trying to keep low expectations for that guy, and if he impresses, then awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The Jalen Saunders pick still. That Idzik 12, outside of Enunwa, still just brings up horrible memories for me. I'll talk about, I want to ask you a little bit about Sam Darnold. Kyle and I were kind of talking about him and this Friday, kind of what we're expecting and whatnot. From what we've seen in training camp, he's been pretty up and down, but mostly up. Been doing a lot of great work in the red zone. But has kind of struggled a little bit on deep balls. That's just one of those things that he's going to get accustomed to as he gets in the NFL. How do you think the Jets are going to try to scheme around Sam Darnold, if that makes sense? I mean, do you think that they're going to, in Mark Sanchez's rookie year, they kind of had the green red light thing, with Brian Schottenheimer. I don't know if you remember that, where Green would kind of make go, and it was just his wristband. He was entirely glued to his wristband, and it was hand the ball off 25 times a game and throw minimally.
I tried to forget. It wasn't so easy.
It was, I mean, they went to an AFC Championship on it, but they had the best offensive line and Thomas Jones and Leon Washington and whatnot, and a great defense. That doesn't help.
Right.
But how do you see kind of the Jets building around Sam Darnold in his rookie year? I mean, he is supposed to be the Week 1 starter. So do you see them kind of having him on a leash and just pounding Isaiah Crowell, Bilal Powell, Trent Canning, Elijah McGuire, short passes, whatnot? Or do you think they're just going to kind of let him play, go out there and make mistakes, throw interceptions, and hopefully through that he's going to become a better quarterback?
I don't know if putting him on a leash is the right word, but I mean, I think it's pretty clear one of the reasons why John Morton's not here is because Todd Bowles felt like he didn't run the ball enough. So they are going to be running the ball more this year, I think. Otherwise, Bowles would have wanted to hire someone other than Bates. So I do think they will run the ball more. But it's not like we have that 09 offensive line. So they're still going to need to lean on the quick passing game as well. And I think that's really what they're going to do. They're just going to lean on the quick passing game and run the ball more than they did last year. And but no, I don't think they're going to put him on a leash. I mean, if you look at what they've been saying about Darnold and how they've been treating him in preseason, they've been throwing everything at him. Or not preseason, training camp. They've been throwing everything at him and trying to see what he can do, so that way they know how far they can push him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Moving away from Sam Darnold, obviously he's the hot topic. This Friday, do you have a player you're really excited to see outside of Darnold? Because obviously any Jets fan that tunes in, 90% of them, the thing they're watching is Darnold. How does he look? Is he the real deal? Whatnot? How is he progressing? But is there a guy outside of Darnold you're kind of excited to see?
It was Quincy, but he's obviously not going to be playing now. He's out for like a week. I would say I'd say Robbie. I'm really excited about the receivers. Part of that's probably because everybody, like, outside of Jets fans, don't really give a shit about them. So the fact that, like, I think they're both going to do pretty low this year, provided they're both healthy, should be pretty fun to watch them.
Yeah, I think, talking about Robbie, he's one of those guys that took such a big jump from year 1 to year 2, and I'm just wondering, how much of a jump is it going to be from year 2 to year 3? You can't really expect the same amount of jump, but even if he just kind of refines some of his other skills, I mean, he can be a really scary wide receiver. So, yeah, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to watch, Kyle's boy, Terrell Pryor, see how he looks. I mean, he's going to be a beast of a fourth wide receiver. Kind of the young guys.
Number 1 wide receiver.
All right.
All right, Ben.
Our Darius Stewart, third-round pick last year. A lot of guys are forgetting. Nimbley said he could be cut, or was expecting him to be cut. How does he come out of this? There's just, the receiver position.
Chad Hansen. That's the other guy, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, when Hansen gets his opportunity in the slot, I mean, him and Darnold have already kind of forged a friendship. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'm excited for all those guys in the receiving positions and kind of all the weapons, because we have kind of a young, exciting piece at each, group. I mean, I'm really pumped to see Chris Herndon and even the other tight ends. I mean, does Jordan Leggett play, Neil Sterling, Clive Walford, whatnot, but, especially Herndon after all the positive buzz he's gotten. the wide receivers, obviously Hanson, Stewart, Pryor, some of those new guys that have been added in addition to Robbie and Jermaine and Quincy. And then the running back position, I'm really excited to see Trenton Cannon. I want to see him as a kick returner because I think that's going to be how he's going to mostly impact the team if he's on the roster, which I expect him to be. But then, when it is time for him to be out in the offense, is he involved at all? I mean, McGuire might miss a week or two, so he might fill in that role. When McGuire's back, does he even have a role? So there's a lot of guys on offense that I'm excited to see. Defense, I think we kind of more know what it is. I just think the secondary is going to be a little bit better and the pass rush will be a little bit better. But I think the defense is just going to be what it was last.
I'm excited to see too.
Yeah, Shepard. I mean, Canadian Thanos. Yeah, Canadian Thanos is.
That's so great.
All right? Last question about Friday though. Just I want one bold prediction about this Friday. Kyle and I were kind of talking about playing time between the quarterbacks and whatnot. But can you give me one bold prediction about this Friday's game against Atlanta?
Bold prediction.
Put you on the spot here.
Yeah, right. I would say Teddy throws most touchdowns.
Wait, one more time.
Teddy Bridgewater will throw more touchdowns than any other quarterback in the game.
That is bold. That is bold. Kyle, what are your thoughts on that?
But Garrett Grayson will throw more.
Okay.
And by the way, that's more because I think he's going to play more than the other guys. But, rather than because he's going to light it up or whatever. But
I wouldn't be shocked if Teddy throws, goes out and has a nice outing in I think the quarter he'll play, or probably the half he'll play. I think that'll be it for the preseason. I think it'll just be Darnold from there on out because, if he has a good outing, why risk him getting injured? Now you have good tape, nothing but good tape for him. You can say, hey, look,
good defense too.
He's healthy. He went out there. He played well. I mean, you can take the gamble on how he's going to play against everybody else. We should only have good tape on Teddy Bridgewater when this preseason is done. And I think if the coaching staff is smart and they know what's in the best interest of the team overall, they take Teddy Bridgewater out when he's performing well. Soon as, he has a great drive, that's it. Take him out. All right? We see what he can do. He's healthy. Look, he's back to form. He can be your starter. Give us all the monies. Give us everything.
Do you think there's, through his preseason performance, let's say we kind of go off the note of Nimbley, that he doesn't play as well, doesn't play as hot, let's say he doesn't even throw a touchdown, just kind of doesn't look that great. Do you think there's a way for him to drop his stock enough to the point where the Jets don't trade him before the season and just kind of hang on to him as a backup or maybe a guy who could get traded in the regular season?
Yeah, I think my prediction was that he gets traded, sometime in the regular season. That was my early prediction this year. And I think that will likely happen because I'm not expecting Teddy Bridgewater to go out and throw 2 touchdowns.
All right, well, Todd, your thoughts?
I don't agree with that. I think if that were to happen, if he were to not play as good and his stock starts dropping, I think they would try to go more of the route of the conditional kind of pick where, not like Hackett, not like that, where you might not get a pick, but, more like as long as he's on the roster, through X amount of games or whatever, you get a pick. And then, after that, it could go as high as a third round, or it could go as high as a fourth round or whatever, or as low as a seventh rounder, something like that, where there's a wide range. But as long as, he were to play well during the season, then you would get a high pick, or, mid-round pick. I mean, I think they could, do something like that. I do think they will try to move him or want to move him regardless. Just because if you're waiting until the middle of the season or beginning of the season, you'd have to get, I think, really lucky for an Aaron Rodgers type of situation to happen for you to actually get a decent pick, in the middle of the year where it seems really, really desperate.
Yeah. I think it's just one of those situations where I think the Jets acquired him knowing that he was going to be a buy and sell, basically. I think they just liked the deal they were going to get with him, figured they'd prove that he's healthy enough. And I think he was just kind of insurance that if the rookie quarterback wasn't ready. But with all the positive reports about Darnold being ready, he doesn't really serve a purpose at all, because I think the Jets are more comfortable with McCown being the backup mentor type, and Bridgewater at this point doesn't really serve a purpose, because even if he were to start and play well, then what? He's on a 1-year deal. They're not going to bring him back, because at that point then you're turning to Darnold. So it's just like, I think it's one of those things where he was a bot if Darnold or whoever they drafted was not going to be ready, and so just they had him. They had a guy that they could put the franchise behind for a bit, and he could play that 1 year. But then you turn it over to the rookie. But with Darnold playing well, I mean, even if Darnold playing okay, if Darnold shows that he's ready, playing Teddy Bridgewater in the regular season doesn't get you much. So I think he's destined for the trade block. It's just he's not going to be a Jet. I could see, however, a situation where the Jets don't really get what they want. Let's say the highest offer they're getting is a 5th, and in that case they say, okay, we're going to take him into the season, injury insurance and whatnot, and then definitely try to move him before Week 7, because injuries will happen. It's more likely a starter's going to get hurt in the first 7 weeks of the regular season than the preseason. So let's say Week 4, I don't even know. Give me a random court. Matthew Stafford.
But the question is, right? Is it going to be a Matthew Stafford who goes down, or is it going to be Joe Flacco who goes down? Because that severely impacts, your return on the investment, depending on which type of starter is going down.
But I think of it. If a team is, sorry to cut you off, but I know what you're saying, because if a team is desperate, if a team is a winner, I kind of feeding off what you're saying. If a team is a winner and puts themselves in a position where they're 5-1 and then they lose their starting quarterback, and we'll use Atlanta, Matt Schaub is their backup. Matt Ryan is a terrific quarterback. You lose him, your level of play significantly goes off. So if they're 5-1, he goes down. They could trade for Teddy. I think if a team is in that situation, they'd be so desperate enough to probably move it up to a 3rd or 2nd, even if he doesn't play that well in the preseason and doesn't play at all in the regular season, just because you put it on a prayer basically that this 25-year-old former Pro Bowler has gotten healthier in the few months that he's been on the Jets and whatnot, and can make some moves. But Todd, it was great having you on the show, man. Really quickly, just shout out your Twitter so our listeners can give you a follow.
Yeah, it's Todd_Miller03, or at Todd_Miller03. I always do that.
Well, it's always confusing with the underscores, the periods, and whatnot. But we made it simple. We just had the Jet Take. We were fortunate enough to get that. But Todd, thank you so much for calling in, man.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Kyle, I think that's where we're going to end it for tonight.
Mount Rushmore.
I guess we can do it. I don't know how much time I kind of have here, not to be... Okay, I guess we have time. We have time, sorry. I have somewhere I have to go right after this, but I just got a text that they're going to be late. Honestly, one of the best texts you can ever receive is when unless you're in a rush, but, when somebody's like, I can't make it, or I'm late. It's just like, oh, thank God, because I haven't gotten ready at all. Okay, Kyle.
I mean, this will only take like 5 minutes.
All right, let's do it. We'll do this, do the plugs, and get out of here. Kyle, I'll let you kick it off. We're doing training camp disappointments.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore of Jets training camp disappointments, and this can,
Wait, does this mean guys who played really well in training camp and then just sucked in the regular season?
Yeah, or guys who were hyped up, around training camp, and then, they either fizzled out in the preseason or they didn't make the roster or something along those lines. They were hyped up and disappointed us.
Okay.
All right, so do you want first pick?
Yeah,
sure.
Not?
All right,
I'll take
go
it. Easy one, Christian Hackenberg. Do you remember when he wore like a glove to practice?
This is the worst.
I will back it up.
I
will back it up. Because we're taking hype. First of all, you're talking about training camp disappointments. What is better one than? Well, people are talking about Christian Hackenberg. Look, he didn't have a great preseason last year. But he's had a full year.
Nobody thought he was good.
Hold on. Do you remember there was about a week there where he had a glove on? He wore a glove and he had a great practice. Or so. He had a
you know who else wore a glove, Ben?
Teddy Bridgewater.
OJ.
Okay, thanks. That didn't make any sense at all. I mean, it made sense.
He was a murderer.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess Christian Hackenberg is too. Murderer of our dreams. But
no, he's just a bad football player.
He's a definite training camp disappointment. People were hyping it up not because of substance, but because we were going into a season with a 39-year-old quarterback and this kid, our former second-round pick. Even though we had this debate plenty of times, we were basically praying that he'd be okay. So yes, when he showed up and was not that good. It was a definite disappointment. And then if you throw in those few practices he had with the glove, and then everybody got all hyped up about it, I mean, I don't know. So Christian Hackenberg, pick one.
That was pathetic.
All right,
pathetic.
let's hear yours. Let's hear yours, Mastermind.
All right, Chris Owusu.
Damn it, that was my next one. Okay.
Yeah, that was the definite first pick. I gave you the layup because I know you didn't have time. God, Ben, you choked that. Chris Owusu, I mean, possibly the most hyped player in Jets training camp history. Really smart guy, really nice guy. You know, his family, pretty successful. He's got a brother in the NFL. Got like 10 concussions. The guy can never stay on the field. Just one of the biggest. I remember that wide receiving core. I'm not going to name a guy who was also on the receiving core because it gives it away, one of my other picks. But, Jeremy Curley and Chris Owusu, they were going to be the Jets starting wideouts that year. And then Chris Owusu.
Well, the hype was there, but the hype was, I think you're a little wrong in the sense that the hype was more going into 2015. That was the training camp because
he was going to take over as a third.
Yeah, because he signed in the middle of the end of the last year, and then he had a terrific Week 17 against the Dolphins. Then and then he had that amazing training camp, and then was just hurt. But it didn't matter because Decker and Marshall handled it well. I'll go Jalen Marshall next. Another guy that was just extremely hyped up during training camp and preseason. And then that week one of the preseason against the Jaguars, he had a big run back or something on a kickoff return.
But he was 89-yarder. I remember that. I didn't have him on my list, but that's a good one. My second pick, Salim Hakeem, the fastest man alive in, years, I guess. Everybody told me that Joe from Let's Talk Jets, who I guess we've remained friends with, he was like the biggest guy for him, and I can't blame him. The kid was fast and he had good hands. I don't know what happened to him. I think he signed with Kansas City after the Jets. He just got cut. I don't know why. He was pretty decent. He was fast.
No, he was not decent. He was bad. He was just really fast. All right, next one. Two more, I guess. I'll go David Clowney. This is an older one, but he during 2009, 2010. I mean, he was a big time preseason hype, just kind of irrelevant success where he was dominating the preseason. He caught Mark Sanchez's first pass in the preseason for like a 50-yard bomb, and everybody got pumped, but never really turned into anything real. All right, next, you.
All right, this one. I'm surprised he's still here sitting on it. Dexter McDougal.
Damn it.
Yes. Dexter McDougal had the best training camp of any corner to ever play corner on the face of God's green earth last year, and then he got traded like a week before the season started for Terrence Brooks.
Damn.
That was like, I was shocked.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised as well. All right, last one. I'm struggling to think of one. I'm not even kidding. I honestly can't think
I have a list of 8, and you have taken 0 guys off.
Part of me wants to go Jason Morrow.
Don't you fucking do it.
I'm going to go Jason Morrow because there was a lot of hype. This was our second-round tight end of the Idzik 12. This big guy, put up a lot of college stats. He had, did he have a touchdown in the preseason or something? I mean, he had something. And then
he did. Against Tennessee.
He was pretty bad. I mean, he was okay, his rookie year. He was bad. He had struggled with drops and whatnot. But then he got injured, so he was out all of 2015. And then 2016, Jets coming off of 10-6. Oh, we got our starting tight end back. Our tight ends didn't have any, catches last year. He's going to make an impact. And he was so bad in training camp that he was cut. When he was a lot of people had him as a lock to make the roster. But then he fumbled like 7 times.
Yep.
Something crazy. So,
all
right, you last one, then we'll wrap this up.
Ooh, last pick. Okay. There's a couple guys on here that I think really deserve it. You've done all 4 of your picks, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so I can talk out loud about guys I'm thinking of.
Yep.
Okay, so the remaining list I have is David Nelson, Geno Smith, Lorenzo Molden, and Trevor Riley. You did take Jason Morrow. He was on my list. Trevor Riley, I feel like that was just a blip. I feel like he wasn't really a consistent thing. David Nelson, I'm going to go Lorenzo Molden because I heard nothing but great things about that dude. There were even T-shirts for him, and he just did jack shit.
Beer pong tables.
Beer pong tables, yeah. It just did jack shit.
Wow. Well, that's a sad place to end it. Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast, Lorenzo Malden.
Friend of the podcast, Lorenzo Malden.
Still on the roster.
Did jack shit. No, hey, he can turn it around. Obviously, he was a great guy, great story. Had a good rookie
Let's not
year.
tweet this one out.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. I think he can potentially turn it around, but he's definitely gonna have to have a good preseason.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of preseason, under 48 hours, the Jets play the Falcons. We're very excited about this game. Sam Darnold's first start of his career, so obviously you guys are gonna go check that out. As far as our plugs, I guess we're not supposed to be plugging for the New York Jets here. You can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter. You can listen to our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever. You can also find us on turnonthejets.com. That's the best place because not only is there the best Jets content around by far, but then you could, anytime we post our episodes there, as they are always posted, you have all the links to where you can listen to our episodes. So if you have a particular platform you like, if we're not on a platform you like, just send us a tweet and we'll make sure to get it up on there. All right. Well, we'd like to thank all our callers tonight, Todd and Maddie for bringing the heat. We'd like to thank Chris Nimbley for coming on the show. He did a really good job. And we'd like to thank all our listeners from last week who gave us a big push in numbers. So timing is everything, I guess, Kyle. Am I right?
Timing is everything.
Everything. That was the 30-second drill of the plugs because I have to go. Kyle, it was great doing another episode with you. We'll be live next week with another beat writer. We'll announce that on Twitter this weekend. And also on our feed, we will be releasing our good friend Michael Nania released his podcast, Know Your Foe. We kind of did I did a podcast with him. It was 30 minutes, I think, kind of the Jet Take Know Your Foe kind of blend. So we'll be releasing that on our feed in a few days, probably towards the weekend. So make sure to check that out as well. That'll do it for us. We'll leave you with the best chant in the National Football League. Everybody have a great week. Enjoy the game this Friday, and go Jets.
Friend of the podcast, Christopher Nimbley.